Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and today we've got a fun project on our hands. It was brought in by Mike. Mike is local to me. Dropped the reel off. We've done some reels with him in the past, and he got this reel, and boy, is it turning sluggish. He just said, do what you can to help me improve the performance of this reel. So we're going to do that, and my suspicions, just from some basic testing, there's two issues going on here. The first one is when you press down on your spool release, sometimes it takes a very long time for it to trip. Generally, that means this reel's salt encrusted or bad grease or what have you. So we got to fix that issue. And then the second one is when you are in free spool, even if you back off your spool adjuster, this spool turns very tight. Well, those of you that know the construction of this reel know that there's ball bearings in there, and my belief is that those ball bearings are shot. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and make this reel not only perform better, but optimize it. That is to improve it over the original design. And how are we going to do that? We're going to do that by fixing the issues with the free spool release. That's generally just dirt and grease and the like. Whatever the issues were that caused the bearings to be a bad problem here, we're going to resolve that by putting in hybrid ceramic bearings. This reel has obviously been used in the salt water. My suspicions are is that the salt water has corroded the factory steel bearings and has led to, well, just a very tight, hard driving reel. But these reels are worth the investment. They're worth doing. And, well, also worth doing is buying your bearings from a reliable supplier. In this case, we're using Boca Bearings hybrids. And, well, you get what you pay for. And hybrid ceramic bearings in this situation is the best solution in terms of enabling this reel to get the performance improvements you need to keep this reel fishing for a long time and for giving it a second chance. Well, let's get started with this. Let's see what we can find out from a diagnosis standpoint. Let's see how we can fix that, and let's see what differences the bearings will make in the performance of this reel. So Mike is a channel friend. Mike dropped off a couple of reels here for the programs that I participate in about youth anglers. He gave me a couple of reels that, well, while not working optimally, can be serviced and can be put into that program, and I appreciate that for him. I do thank him for his kindness, generosity, and thought. Well, to get started, we're going to remove the side plate from this reel. I'm going to start by removing a couple of the pieces of the side plate. I just find it's easier to do when I take the reel off rather than leaving that to a later point. Well, let's just see. There's an E-clip in here, and you can just see the accumulated salt and debris on this says this reel has not been serviced in a while, and it is a saltwater reel that, well, just has been used. I'm not sure if it's been abused. It's been used, and if my suspicions hold, we'll be able to correct this. I'm going to take a brush here. There's a lot of sediment on this handle. I want to clean that out before I try to remove the handle. Sometimes the old salts and debris and the like will clog the threads, and then you can't get the handle up and off. Well, you should be able to move this one up and off pretty easily, just taking its time. You can see the back end of this tells the same story. It's been a while since these parts have been taken off, cleaned, inspected, lubricated, and put back together again. And that's what you do in your regular maintenance to these reels. What you can also do is, well, subscribe to my channel if you like these kinds of videos. If you like to learn about fishing reels and how they're used and what kind of problems they have and how to repair them and who made the reels and when they were made and how they're fished, and I can go on and on. I cover an awful lot of topics. Then I want to encourage you to subscribe to the channel. And the channel doesn't cost you anything to subscribe to. You can benefit from it, and I can benefit from it too, because, well, YouTube uses the number of subscribers to kind of rank your videos and get you circulated, and I appreciate you subscribing and helping the channel to deliver the content that we do. Well, you just saw I cleaned off the back. I used a little bit of a steel wool that had some chrome cleaner in it to knock off the dirt. I did put a squirt of penetrating oil into each of the handle knobs to make sure that they work fine. And when I take the pieces and parts off, they go into a parts tray. That helps me keep track of where the pieces and parts are in the process. And should you have an issue with restoring the reel, well, sometimes it's about not taking care of the parts that you removed. So you can avoid that issue by, well, having a parts strategy. The parts tray is the way I do it. It's not the way everybody has to do it. There's plenty of different ways to manage parts. Just make sure you have one before you start pulling the pieces and parts off and kind of scattering them around the workbench. Well, you saw under the handle there was another accumulation of that salt and debris, so I just took a moment here before I started unwrapping the star adjuster to knock that off as well. Alright, so we should be able to remove the star adjuster. Then we'll take those 3 side plate screws out and we'll get the first look at what's going on inside this reel. So if I remember this reel, this is if I haven't mentioned it, it's a 5600, I think. 6500 C3. So it's made in Sweden. 6500 is a wider stance than the 5000 series. It is underneath the 7000s in terms of capacity and the like. But overall, it's a very reliable reel. And the ones made in Sweden, well, they can just keep on fishing if you keep them maintained properly. All right, let's see if we can pull this off now. All right, yeah, Well, we've got a lot of that dirt and debris. You can just see it. It's gathered on the side plate case here. And I'm sure it's on the inside of that as well. And a lot of people ask me what's a common failure in the reel. Well, there's actually 2 of them. One of them is no grease and the other is too much grease. This one I think is suffering from no grease and no cleaning and no maintenance in a while. All right, this has an aluminum spool. Let's get that out. Oh, well, there's one of the reasons why. Jeez, why it's hard. Stuck. There's a, oh yeah, look at it, it almost came out. There's a bushing in the back here, not a bearing. 2 bearings on the spool. And one of the things I'm going to do for Mike is I'm going to replace all 3 of those bearings with the hybrids. We're going to convert over this bushing to a bearing, and I will show you how to do that as part of this. Now you should be able to take your spool like this and spin it. And I'm feeling the axle shaft actually spinning right now, not the spool. Very difficult. I'm holding it, but it's really got a lot of tension on it, which tells me that the bearing here and the bearing in the back here are essentially frozen. Yeah, this is just not turning well. So we're going to replace those for Mike as well. So we'll take that off. We're going to pull this off. And because that's such a hard deal right now, we're going to soak these before I attempt to take those bearings out. We'll go over, we're going to soak these. And well, I'm actually going to use a product that Mike dropped off with the reels. It's Croil. It's a penetrant. It's not just a penetrating oil. It's more like a master blaster kind of a product. And the only thing I don't like about this, I was telling Mike about it when he dropped that off, I don't like the smell of this. It kind of has that well, almost kerosene type smell. I'm not quite sure what you would describe it at. But I'm going to put that in here. Hopefully that's going to loosen up the path for the bearings to help with the removal. And we'll just set that aside for a moment while we do the maintenance. And we'll come back over here, try to pop those bearings, replace those with the hybrid ceramics, and see how we did. So I do use Croil. I have it in the full liquid containers, and that's for loosening frozen metal parts and the like. I'll put that in a little bowl with the parts and help that way. All right, that bushing in the back here is also starting to pop, so let's take a look at that, because I do want to replace that as well. Now, you don't need to replace that bushing, but that spool, when I was removing it, was sticking in there, which means that that plastic bushing, I think it's plastic, we'll find out in a moment, that plastic bushing was swollen. And if it's swollen, it clamps down on the axle shaft. And if it clamps down on the axle shaft, you get that performance issue that we were just going through there. So let's see what we can do to get this kind of taken off. Now, speaking of taking, love the way some of these things come together. Take pictures along the way because, well, there's a lot of things going on and you want to document where you are in the process of removing and replacing pieces and parts during your service, so that if you do lose track, if you have to put your reel down, walk away, and come back a day or two or an hour later, whatever it is, you can't trust your memory all the time, so take pictures. And this is a good place to take pictures. We're going to remove the side plate. You can see on the back, yeah, the bushing's almost out of there now. We have our idler gear. Check and inspect all the teeth on both the drive side from the spool and the drive side for the worm gear. Take a picture of where your bushing is. We're going to replace that. Notice that there's two little plastic spacers, and those spacers are for your click assembly. So your click assembly is going to go down like that. The two spacers are going to go over the top. All right, I'm just going to remove that and place that over to the side for a moment. Let's see if we can pull the idler gear off. We can. We've inspected it. All the teeth and that are good. Let's see if I can get this bushing out. It's kind of halfway out already. Okay, so this is a little bit wider bushing than the bearing to be replaced. The bearing is a 3x10 by 4. This one looks like it might be 5. We'll take one of those Ambassadeur spacers for the back end of this, and that'll build up what we need for a bearing replacement there. All right, let's. Why don't we do that right now, because I can put that off to the side once I complete that. Just need to find those pieces and parts. While I do, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel, particularly if you while I do that, it's a good time to ask questions. I'm sure you have questions on this process and others. And if you have a question, leave it in the comments section. I will try to answer that for you. Here's that spacer I was talking to you about. I'm going to put that in there, if it fits. I don't think that one's going to fit. All right, we're going to search for another one. Okay, I wasn't able to find the spacer, but I was able to find a shim washer, so that'll act just as well. Let's go in and grab that first bearing. Again, this is a Boca Bearing hybrid ceramic. The measure on it is 3x10 by 4. And they're kind of standard for a lot of the bait casting fishing reels. These will be the same ones we'll use in the spool itself. But again, we're going to just replace the bushing here because it's tight. So I'll make sure it fits on the axle shaft before I go crazy. Get a good fit for that. We're going to just place that in here. Just like that. And that essentially will finish that side. Let's put our idler gear back on. You should hear a snap like that. Make sure that the case is clean. There's a little bit of dirt in here, not much. So we'll just wipe that down. We're going to put a little drop of oil onto our click arm. And now we can take the click assembly, the two spacers, put those on each of the posts. And we can put that side plate back on. Now, you're going to have to hook, so it actually comes in from a little bit of a side angle here. And just turn it until you got it lined up. Sometimes you're going to need to move your arm so that you can get that pivot centered. There we go. Takes a little bit of time. Take your time with it. Be patient. That's the best way to get this done. All right, let's put that off. And again, I really don't like that Croyle smell, but it does the job. Must have that same chemical in it that Master Blaster has in it. I'm not quite sure what it is. One of the reasons why I wear a glove is I'm not quite sure what the chemical compounds are on a lot of these things. And I try to keep that off my hands as I can. But just a word of note to you if you are sensitive to that smell. might not be the product for you. All right, so drop of oil in here. Last thing we want to do on this side before we go over to that gear side is to work that pawl. Let's slide the assembly over to the side. Oh, the pawl itself runs fine, so we know that it was that spool that's dragging everything down. But if you're doing your diagnosis on this, you do want to make certain that you check the pawl and the line guide assembly, because sometimes it's a bent wing on a pawl that's causing the issue. Well, here we have a very dirty pawl. That's no surprise to me because the whole reel is dirty. You want to take a moment here, clean the cylinder, and especially clean the shoulders on the top of the pawl here. So these two little slots here on each side need to be cleaned off. If the greases and the dirt accumulate in that on those shoulders, it's tough for it to pivot and turn around in the worm gear. This is your worm gear, and this one looks clean. One of the things you can do for cleaning a worm gear, just put some penetrating oil onto the worm gear, take a paper cloth, put it in there, and turn your drive. What that will do is it'll transfer the dirt and debris over to the paper cloth, helping you to clean that. Now, if it was really, really dirty, you could pull that out and use a wire brush or a bristle brush or something to help remove all the items that are clogged. But in this case, we're all right. We're going to just take that pawl, put that back in. Drop of oil on it before you continue. Hold that down, turn the idler gear, and you'll feel it fall in so that it's working. Then you can take the pawl cap cover, place that on there to complete the process. There you go. Once you're down, tightened, make sure that it turns, and that's your non-gear side assembly. So we actually have 3 assemblies on this. Before I go too far, I do have the opportunity to get inside here, so I am going to use that piece of steel wool to get some of the dirt off of the reel seat. And we can move on. All right, that side's set. The bearings are soaking. Let's go over and find out what the issue is with the Flea spool release and see how we have to clean that up. To get to that, you need to remove the 2 bridge screws. Those screws are Phillips heads, so let's remove those. That's one on each side. And let's get our first look at what's going on under here. Well, as I suspected, it's dry as anything. Lots of salt and debris. So that's cleanable, if you will. Cleanable. It can be cleaned. How's that? All right, let's spray away. Again, I use the penetrating oil as a degreaser and a solvent. So it does help me here. So what's happening is this reel is struggling to pop back because you have all dirt and debris in its track, and you have all contaminants in here as well. So it's not as it came out of the factory for sure. It's had a hard life all around. Just want to push the anti-reverse spacer out. That's the inner sleeve. It's also the gear spacer. And you can see there's a fair amount of, I guess we'll call it rust or dirt or something on here. The anti-reverse was working when we tested. But to be most efficient, this should run dry, grease-free, and of course dirt-free. We'll do this. Okay, that goes into my parts tray. Now, I'm going to use a cotton swab to clean that anti-reverses inside. If you found a need to do further cleaning, you could use something like an automotive brake cleaner or a carburetor cleaner. Make sure if you use that you air dry the piece before you continue. Alright, we're good there. Let's go over to the business end of this reel. First thing we can do is we can remove the gear. Then we can remove the yoke spring. That's where all the dirt is. This is one of the reasons why it's having such trouble returning. Remove the yoke and the pinion gear. You can just see it's all just clogged on here. Then we remove the jack, the trip mechanism, and the lever. And let's clean all of that dirt and debris off of here. I try to go with the least abrasive alternatives in cleaning. So if I can do this with a penetrating oil and a paper towel, I'm going to do that first. If there's marks of issues with this in terms of the corrosion or salting on it and the paper towel won't remove that, my next option is to move up the abrasive scale to something like a kitchen scrubby. If that's not good enough, I'm going to use the fine, ultra fine if you will, steel wool. That's the steel wool it shows is 4 zeros. Clean your trip lever base. That goes on first on that post, with the other post of course facing up. Do the same thing here with the lever, or button, or cap, depending on the setup that you have. This faces in. That sets like that on your assembly. This is your trip arm now, or your jack. And while there's not a lot of corrosion on here, there's also not a lot of oil. There is a lot of dirt. So that's clearly what's clogging this path here. And that's what we need to free up. All right, this goes over the top of that. And this is how your assembly sits now. So you have your base lever, your cap, your trip arm, or yoke. To set that off to the side, we need to clean the yoke, and we need to clean the pinion gear next. And again, you can see all the dirt and debris in here. And all of these play a part in the trip mechanism and in how the reel drives. So if you have dirt and debris in these little holes here, which are sitting over the other post, it's not going to come up and down the post easily. So you want to take care of that. Again, one failure of a reel is lack of grease, the other is too much grease or dried grease and dirt and debris and the like. In this case, it's no grease, it's all evaporated. Some people say, where did it go? Well, it just kind of evaporated. Went out into, I guess what we used to say is thin air. And, well, it's no good here. That's the reason why you want to service your reels on an annual basis. All right, clean that up. Find the slant side. There's ramps here on the back of that yoke. When you install your pinion gear, the slotted side of the pinion gear aligns to the side that has the slants. Then these both mount over your 2 posts on your bridge. Check to make sure that the back end structure of this is working. You've got a couple of things here. You have a spring, which seems like it's probably not working very well here. So I'm going to just put a little bit of oil in there, see if we can't free that up. Yep, all right. It doesn't look like much, but it's popped out the way it should. That aids in the return. That spring is going to go right here on that little stud. and it's going to aid in the return of that trip lever. With that all good, center this post and the other, bring it over. Make sure it snaps in completely. And that's what you want to look for on this side, that little spring we were working on there. I'll make sure that it's underneath that little arm and that it's operational. All right, a little bit of grease onto the shaft for the bridge. Use fishing reel grease only. All right, we're going to take our time here. This looks like we're in pretty good shape. I was surprised that I was thinking that all of these are going to be stuck in there. They're not. So let's take a look at what we have. This is our trip lever. These teeth are going to push that back. We have a main gear. Again, the problem with this one is lack of grease and oils. Just going to knock the salt off the back of this one. I'm going to grab a bristle brush. I want to pull through on the teeth for any dirt that might be on there. And again, the reel was cranking okay. It was just very slow. And again, we're going to attribute that to the problems we're having with the bearings themselves. Here's your stack. We have a washer that goes underneath the main gear. It's smaller than the others if you're replacing them. These are hard washers. You don't do anything with a hard washer other than to make sure it's clean. Same thing with the metals. If the metals are clean, you can reinstall. And I'm kind of surprised at how clean this is, given the other issues we've had with the salt. So we haven't had much salt intrusion into the drag stack. Do have the dirt on the outside. We'll bring that in, clean that off. Again, using the paper towel is the best answer here. We can bring that over and go get the spacer for your AR clutch. Give it all a turn, make sure everything's working okay. Next up, we're going to grease the main gear. I use an artist brush and I use Pen Precision wheel grease for this. And again, I'm not married to Pen Precision wheel grease. Make sure you use a fishing wheel grease, regardless of whose brand it is, when you're servicing your reels. Bring this over the top, set it in place. Bring your lever up a little bit there. We should be able to reinstall the cap. Before we do that, there is a little bit of dirt on the side here, so we are going to take care of that. These are aluminum cases and aluminum spool. Just be aware of that as you go to maintain the reel. All right, bring that over. Make sure your two screw holes are aligned. Make sure your trip lever is inside the slot in the case. And we'll get the two screws that belong holding the case on. Well, as you can see, it's a progression. It's a logical step-by-step process to fix the reel, but it doesn't take too long. Certainly worth you doing if you have the capability of doing, or it's certainly worth you paying to have done on an annual basis to keep the reel fishing for a long time to come. On the face side of this, we have two tension washers. They have bellies in them. The belly on the first goes up, on the second goes down. That's the way they come from the factory. You can adjust these. You can put them face to face, nest them if you will. If you are nesting them, that will make it easier to turn the reel, but it'll give you less sensitivity on the star adjuster. Make sure this is going on square. Just looking for my pliers to hold the shaft while I do this. Again, there was some salt and debris in those threads, so they may just be struggling a little bit with that, but that's okay. It's going on nice and easy now. And it should only go nice and easy. Okay, we're going to set this aside for a moment. Once I tap that down, and we're going to pause for a moment, then we'll come back and we'll see if that croil has had any effect on the spool. We'll replace those with the ceramic bearings, and hopefully we'll be successful in how we did with this project. Okay, let's move on to the spool. To get to this spool bearing, we need to remove this trip lever, and to do that there's a metal ring that is located on there. So bring a pick or something, come over to the side, hold it so that it doesn't shoot, and that's the metal ring that's holding your bearing back. You should be able to pull off your guide next. This is the guide. These two little points in the center are what's going to interlock with those slots you saw on the spool. And then we should be able to push up and out on that bearing. Let's give it a try. Okay, I'm going to take a pick and I'm going to bring it in from the back side. See if we can push up and out on that. There we go. That was easier than enough. I'm going to credit Croyle with that. I don't know if it actually did that or not, but we're going to credit Croyle with that. All right, that's the top side bearing. Let's reverse the process. Come back and see if we can't push this. There you go. So, yeah, there's a lot of rust and like on that outer shell. Interesting that it kind of is that way because of the aluminum spool, but it is. We've got two bearings to replace now. So, first one, let's go with the non-spool side. And again, these are the Boca Bearings hybrids. These are an ABEX 7, which is about as high as you want to go or can go for a fishing reel. There actually is a 9. They go on a scale, odd numbered scale, and they go from 1 to 9. 9 is kind of military grade. You don't need 9 in a fishing reel, but these ratings, well, they're all about the size and variances. There we go. They're about the size and the variances of the bearings to each other. So a 7 has got a very limited tolerance difference between them, and well, they're perfect for fishing reel projects. Once you install that side, put your click ratchet on. Let's come over to the other side, grab another bearing. In this one, the bearing that we removed had a little shim beneath it. There's a little bit of dirt in the case. I want to make sure that I get these. And many of you are probably noticing that I did not add oil to the bearing before we closed it up. And that's because ceramic bearings do not require oil. They run best dry. They run the fastest dry. So if you're concerned with your fishing reel and you want casting distance and you want to get to the maximal spin on the reel, leave them dry. The downside of ceramic bearings is they're noisy. Well, if you don't like the noise associated with it, then put 1 drop of oil. Don't go crazy. You don't hose it down. Just 1 drop of oil on it will penetrate the orange seal on these. And, well, they will quiet it down. All right, these come in here, one on each side. You saw how we took them off. If you didn't, you'll remember to look at your pictures, which we advise you to take. Here's your C-ring. Just hold one side, bring it around. It's good to get one side anchored in first. Just walk it around. Be careful. Again, it is a spring, so if you're not paying attention to it, it can get you. Just walk it around until you lock in. There we go. We're locked in. Now we can put that axle shaft back in. Once that retention clip is back, it's time to install the axle. One of the things I'm thinking is I may have misled you, or I may not have given you the additional information. The bearing size for the one in the case is the 3 by 10 by 4. The one in the spools is 4 by 10 by 4. So it's a wider opening for the wider axle shaft. So let's go put the axle shaft back in, get it started, drop of oil on it, push that through. Let's give it a spin now. Remember, it didn't spin the first time. It actually spun the axle shaft. Then when I clamped down on it enough, we had a tight turner. Let's see what we got now. Oh, look at that. Those bearings make all the difference in the world in terms of a spin, right? This reel should fly. Between this and the cleanup of the line guide assemblies and the like, and the replacement of a bushing with the bearing in the back there, this one should see great casting distances. All right, we're going to replace our spool. Before you put your side plate on, make sure that your brakes are in. I like to put this into the neutral as well. Free spool. Bring that over, align your posts, bring that down. Tighten up on our screws. So we've done a lot with this reel for Mike. We replaced 3 of the bearings. We did that with hybrids as opposed to the original steel. This reel is going to be quite the performer, no doubt. And, well, it's going to give him years of satisfaction and great fishing, but with the caveat that you need to keep these reels serviced. I think he did mention that he got this at a flea market, so I can understand. Why do reels wind up at flea markets? Well, something breaks on them. Folks either don't use them, put them aside, or just decide that they're going to go out and buy new, not give their reel a second chance, not get it serviced, sell it on the market, and hope to recover a few dollars, I guess, to go put to a new reel. Well, you can see from doing this that you've got a better reel than most of the reels sold today. You got one that's going to last, and you got it at a reasonable price. All right, let's just tighten this down. When you tighten your handle down, make sure you've tightened your star adjuster down so that you don't trap it. If that point is pointing directly at the hole, or if the flat side is perpendicular to the hole, you generally have a good chance that your cap retainer is going to just fit on like that. And then we should be able to bring this back in. All right, let's go over what we did. We had a very sluggish reel come in, one that had seen better days. It is a Ambassadeur 6500 C3. Okay, it's time for the final test. The gloves are off. What did we do? Well, we got a poor performing Ambassadeur 6500 C3 in. Mike brought it in. So he got it from a flea market. Didn't know much about it, and I think one of the things we've learned over time is if you're buying a used reel and you don't know the history on it, best thing to do before you take it fishing is to get it serviced. That way you can ensure worry-free performance. You can correct any issues that are identified with the reel before it's out on the water and you lose a fish that, well, maybe you could have saved in terms of fish of a lifetime, for example. Well, at any rate, we took this reel completely apart. We found out that there was definitely an issue with the performance of the reel. There was a plastic bushing on the side here that apparently was swollen and stuck to the shaft of the spool, and that the 2 spool bearings were frozen in place. Well, we used a product called Croyle, courtesy of Mike. It did the job. It got the bearings free and out of the spool cavities. I don't like the smell of the product, but the product's performance, well, that's at another issue. It's a nice, effective penetrant that enabled us to remove those bearings. Once we took those bearings out, we replaced them with the Boca Bearing's hybrid ceramics. They are a top bearing for fishing reels and a top supplier for those bearings. Very reliable company that is my go-to for the ceramic bearings. After we finished the service on the spool, we made sure that the line guide assembly was cleaned. We showed you how to remove the pawl, check for the dirt, clean it off of both the worm gear using a paper towel and the shoulders using paper towel and perhaps a little assist from a screwdriver or something. got into the main case, found out that it was completely dry. That was likely the cause of the return button not working properly. And it also showed that there was salt intrusion into the case. You can't keep salt water, or you can't keep any water out of an open reel like this. They come in through the sides where the spools join the side plates and into the mechanisms. So best thing to do with that is continually clean the reel after use, and don't put it in the storage without cleaning the interior of those reels. Once we cleaned that up, we greased all of this, reassembled it, well, we're back to where we think we've got a beautifully performing reel. So let's check. Free spool first. You can tell right away the ease of use of the spool. We showed you how it spins free on that axle shaft. Let's make sure that it pops out. Pops out easy turn, no click, 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 click kind of a thing, right back where it should be. Performance-wise, oh, what a beauty. What a difference. Free and easy. Not an issue at all in terms of performance. Check the drags, they're nice and tight. If you're not going to use the reel, back the drags off. That's the best way to keep them from getting compressed and wearing too soon. So that's it. That's how you take a flea market find and get it rejuvenated. Cleaned, upgraded bearings, check the drag washers, oiled, lubed, and ready to go fishing. I hope you've enjoyed that. Before I leave, I want to thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please indicate that by hitting the thumbs up like button there. If you want to see more of these, again, please subscribe. And if you are or know a first responder, thank them like I try to thank them every episode for their dedication to task, their commitment to their career, and their, well, just their overall support of public safety and keeping everybody out of harm's way. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, wishing everybody a great day and fun times on the water.